Hey guys, it's good to see you. So I'm really excited today. I actually wanted to get into something that I've been seeing a lot of issues with some of my clients coming up as of late. So how do you communicate changes in your family? Whenever you're changing or leveling up, changing your life in some way, there's things that happen within your family dynamics that starts to shift as well too. So in this video, I'm just going to go into some ways that you can communicate to your close family members, maybe some of your closer friends, that you're going through a transformative period, and how you can be okay and communicate to them with the changes that you're going through. First off, it's perfectly normal when you're going through any transformative process, whether you're changing yourself, whether you're changing the way that you do things, whether you change your being, for your family to get a little bit weird or be like, what's going on here? I went through it probably about 4 years ago, multiple times of my life. And I was like, my whole family didn't really know what was happening. So in this video, I just wanted to share with you guys some of the top tips that you can use in order to get yourself on the same page with your family. When you start leveling up and you go to that next level, the family that you came from, they might be like, where's this person going? What are they doing? They're thinking, saying, and acting in ways that we don't understand at all. And then what I know from my own experience, and I've been getting more of these messages from some of my clients, they don't feel understood by their families. So then they get upset or they're confused and they want to have a good relationship with their families, but they feel like their families don't understand them. So I'm going to share with you guys some tips on how to really balance that energy out. And then also I'll just share with you a little bit about my own experiences in the past so you can feel a little bit better about it as well too. So the first most important thing to know is that any time that you're up leveling in any aspect of your life, whether it's your family or your friends, when you see yourself changing and up leveling, it's important to communicate to your family and your friends that you're changing. So I have so many times my clients, when they up level, and even in myself in my own life, because I usually up level every 2 or 3 years, I've noticed in big ways that I don't even recognize my being and how it's changing. Every time you up level, the best thing that you can do is let the people closest in your life know that you're going to that next level and that you're going to change. The reality of it is we can change who we are and what we're about really, really quickly. But what keeps us locked in that old paradigm is the reflection that we get back from our family or our friends. And they say, oh, you change. Or have you ever had that experience where you think that you're, like, let's say a family member comes up and they're like, you're changing, and you feel like you have to form back into that old person that your family knew. You feel like you have to shrink yourself into that old identity. That's what happens when you don't communicate to your family and your friends that you're changing or that you're up leveling in some way. I remember when I first started really going through a deeper evolutionary process and really just learning to become my own person about 8 years ago, when I really started learning who I wanted to be and learning how I wanted to create myself outside of my family unit, outside of my society, and really asking myself those deeper existential questions and all those changes that came with it. My family had no idea what was going on at first. And this is what I see so many times when people up level. They don't know how to communicate to their family members or their friends that they are changing. And so then they go back into those relationships and they become that person who the other people think them to be. And then they feel stuck. They feel stuck in the old life. They feel stuck in the old identity because they're forming back into the expectations of their family members or friends. So the best thing that you can do is communicate to your family members or your friends how you're changing. So I was just talking with someone not too long ago about this. They said, I'm going through all these changes. I don't know what's really necessarily happening. I know my soul wants to expand in some way, but I don't really know. My family's kind of scared. They're freaking out. They don't know what to do. They're really confused. And so I just told them, I said, well, how can you get your family members to see that you're changing? Like, what would allow them to be less scared about the process? Because here's the thing, when you're going through an evolutionary transformational process and you're changing and you're up leveling in your being, your family's not going to understand you. If you're truly changing and transforming and you're a trailblazer for your family in terms of evolving and chasing and going after what your soul wants, if you're evolving in that way, your family might look at you and they might say, we don't know who you're becoming. We like the old you. And you like that can hold you back. And that might make you feel really alone. I know for me, when I first started going through this process 9 years ago now, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like people couldn't understand who I was changing into, the person that I was becoming. So it felt hard for me to be open and honest with everyone about who I was changing into, because I didn't really necessarily know that what was happening. So if you're going through any transformative process and you're really worried about what your family members will think or your friends will think, or maybe you have a spouse or something like this, just let them know, hey, I'm leveling up and I'm going to be changing in a big way. I don't know necessarily what I'm changing into, and it's a little bit scary. I'm just letting you know that I am changing. Because how human beings work is people operate a certain way around us. And then what happens is we adopt our behavior to how they think and do things. And so when you change, I have like 3 clients going through this right now. When you change, your family might feel threatened by who you're changing into, and they're just scared because they don't know who you're changing into. So it's coming from a very loving place. But what I see is most families will try to control. They'll be like, oh, we don't know who you're becoming. We like the old you. And they play out old patterns and try to control you, which just makes the relationships even worse. So if you're going through a transformative changing process, make sure you slow down, and you don't have to know what you're becoming, because the very nature of true transformation is you don't know what you're becoming next. That's what makes it really scary. There's this classic metaphor of the butterfly and the caterpillar, and like the caterpillar doesn't know that it's turning into a butterfly when it's going into the cocoon, right? And it's the same with you as you go through the transformative process. If you're going through the transformative process and you don't necessarily know what you're going to be or who you're going to become on the other side of it, that's okay. All you have to do is let your family members and your friends and the people close to you, let them know that you're changing, and you don't necessarily know who you're going to change into, and that it's actually a little bit scary for you, but you can ask, but you'd like their support. Does that make sense, you guys? Does this make sense? It can be really scary not knowing who we're changing into or what's happening next. Eventually, that's just, you get to accept that at every moment, and that's what life becomes. But as you're going deeper in your own transformative processes, maybe you're changing, shifting, maybe you're letting go of old relationships, whatever it may be. As you change and transform, it's really important to honor yourself and let your family members and your friends know that you're changing into something and you don't know who you're changing into. And what that does is it lets them know, it gives them a little bit of safety and security of that they're scared because they don't know who you're changing into. And it's scary when we change, but that's the very nature of life. We all change, we all grow, we all adapt. All the research is saying when you look at millennials are supposed to have 5 to 6 careers, whereas the older generations only had 1 to 2 careers. But that's because there's this influx of information, the internet, technology, all this stuff. So if you're going through the transformative process and you're changing, which is natural for most human beings given the speed that the planet is evolving at right now, the best thing that you can do to make the process easier for yourself and your family members is just to tell them, hey, I just want you to know I'm going through a change. You guys are going to see me acting very differently than I typically do. And I just wanted to know if I could have your support. You don't have to understand who I am or what I'm about, but I just need your at least support as I go through this process. It's such a big misconception to think that people can't help you if they don't have the same level of thinking that you do. I remember for years, I probably didn't learn this till I was about 26 or 27 years old. I used to think that in order for me to be understood or felt heard or validated, then other people had to understand my mind. And that kept me from having really good, healthy relationships in my life for the first 26, 27 years. And then something happened when I turned 27. Either I just finally got it, or maybe it was a coach who taught me. I don't even know how. I finally understood that people don't actually have to understand your thinking or the way that you think or even necessarily understand what you're doing and what you're about in order to care for you. The heart knows no, it's a cheesy saying, but the heart knows no bounds. It really doesn't. It doesn't care about mental schemas. It doesn't care about worldviews. It simply just cares for the sake of caring. And so when it comes to your relationships, if you're going through a transformative process in any area of your life, the best thing that you can do is just ask for support from your family members and friends. Let them know that you don't know what's happening to you. You can let them know that you don't expect them to understand what you're going through, but you can just ask for them to be there for you. For me, when I went through the awakening process, gosh, I mean, it never ends. Obviously, you're always waking up to higher levels of being and higher degrees of consciousness. That's a never-ending process. But I know that I found when I first started waking up in 2012, I had no idea what was happening. And I didn't know how to ask for the support that I needed. So the best thing that you can do is tell your family members, hey, I'm going through a transformative process. I am changing. I don't know what's happening. I am a little bit scared of the changes. I don't need you to understand me completely. I just need to know that you're there. And that's really important to ask for that support as you go through that space. And some people might be able to hold that space for you. Others, they may not. What's most important to recognize here, though, is that your family members or your friends don't need to understand what you're going through or what you like or your worldview in order to care for you. Being cared for and loved is a very separate issue than being understood. And a lot of the times we confuse the two. A lot of times we think, oh, this person understands my thinking. They understand my worldview. They understand what I'm about. So therefore they like me or I like them. It's really easy to feel a sense of connection and kinship with people who think like you. But you don't actually need that. And I didn't really start having really satisfying and deeper relationships in my life until I realized that people don't need to think the same as me. They don't need to understand me in the same ways. They just need to care. They just need to care for me and show up. And that's all that really matters. And so if you're going through this transformative process, maybe you're going through great changes in the way that you relate to people. Maybe you're going through great changes in job. Maybe you're raising your standards for your life and you're just saying, I want more. This isn't good enough. I need more. Then I encourage you just to talk to all the people who are closest in your life and let them know that you're changing. Let them know that you're going through a transformative process. Let them know that you don't know what's happening. You don't know what you're going through. You don't know necessarily what's going to happen and that it's okay, but let them know that you want their support as well. And they might not even know how to support you or understand. They might not know how to understand you, but that doesn't mean that they're not willing to support you in what ways that they can. And that can be really helpful. I can't tell you how many clients I've coached over the years who, when they talk to me, they say, I don't feel supported by my family through the awakening process, or I don't feel supported by my family in this way, and they don't understand my thinking. The great thing about relationship is, it's great to have mental intimacy. Don't get me wrong. Mental intimacy is great. It's great to know that someone has a similar worldview as you and can understand your deeper experiences of life. But the reality of it is you don't need someone to understand your thinking. It's just your thinking. The greatest thing about life is our thoughts. They're not that much of a big deal. Our opinions about the world, our worldview, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters most is your level of, at least this is my value system, your level of happiness, your well-being, and your sense of connection to the world. I don't really have too many thoughts or opinions at all much anymore. I really don't. I just share what I'm learning. I share what my clients need. I share what I see could help people. And that's it. I'm not really attached to viewing the world a certain way or seeing it through a certain lens, because when you get attached to a worldview, then you actually cut yourself off from life itself. The more attached you are to your ideas of how you think life works, the less connected you actually are to life itself. So if you're going through a lot of great changes, which a lot of people are going through right now, if you have a lot of inner stuff that's coming up for you and you want to understand it, the best thing that you can do for yourself is just ask for support from family, from friends, whoever. Don't be afraid to ask for support, and they don't need to understand you. That, like, so many times I see people say, I have clients who say this. They're like, well, I don't have anyone who understands me. Like, I'm going through all these crazy new experiences, having all these new thoughts and these new revelations, and no one can understand me. Just because people don't understand you doesn't mean that they don't care. And just because they don't understand you doesn't mean that they still don't want to support you in some way. They might not be able to understand your experience, but it doesn't mean that they don't care. So it's important not to confuse the two. It took me 27 years of my life to understand that people don't necessarily need to understand me. I just need to know that they're there. That's a beautiful way of relating, and you'll feel so much supported by life. You'll feel so much supported by the world, and you'll feel safer and secure in the uncertainty of the world when you allow yourself the space to be supported, whether the person can understand your thinking or not. Like, so much of the world, I mean, I see this all the time in my work. So much of the world so many people in the world want to be understood. And it feels great to be understood and knowing that you're understood. But I mean, I have so many people come to me with the craziest lives, some amazing, some crazy, some I can't even relate to, but they know that I care. I don't necessarily understand them, but they know that I care and they feel that. And so if you can embody that way of being, if you can recognize and accept that, oh, I don't need to be understood in order to be cared for. Don't confuse being understood and your mind being understood for your level of care. They're two separate issues entirely. The best thing that you can do for yourself is recognize that people can still care for you even if they don't understand your thoughts. There's so much more support in the world when we recognize that. All that happens when we think that no one can understand us and we start to believe those thoughts, then you'll probably feel really lonely. I know I did for a very long time. I mean, that was most of my life up until I was 26, 27 years old. And then I realized, wow, maybe people don't have to see this world the same way as I do. Or, wow, maybe people don't need to understand me. Maybe that doesn't mean that maybe they can still care for me even if they don't understand me. It feels great to know that your thoughts are understood. That's really important, but it's not always necessary. Beautiful. So I'm going to go to a couple questions here, but does that make sense? Does that make sense, everyone? So, moral of the story, or the most important lesson that you can get out of this, is in order to feel loved, supported, or cared for, you don't have to be understood. The person doesn't have to see the same way as you. That doesn't mean that they don't still love and support you. And if you're going through a really transformative process and you don't know what's happening, that's perfectly okay. Your family, they might be scared or worried because you're changing into something that you don't recognize. That's okay. Just let them know, hey, I don't know who I'm becoming. I'm changing. It's scary for me as well, too. All I need to know is that you're there for me. Can you be there for me? And speak up for that. Speak up for that support, and you'll feel much better. I love Robin's comment. I'm going to bring up Robin's comment. She says, I asked for support the other day and surprised how comforting and soothing it was to allow those words to be heard. Yeah. Guys, anxiety is, if people, some people reach out to me and they say they have anxiety or they feel a little bit worried or nervous. Look, all anxiety is it's pointing to what you need to do for yourself. It's actually a great signal to have. When you get anxiety, what's happening is it's actually telling you to do something. Like, if I get anxiety over work, I know it's because, I need to get this done, that done, and that done. And then once I get it, I don't have the anxiety. I feel good again. So it's just a signal of your body telling you what it is that you need to get done. Does that make sense, you guys? Awesome. Beautiful. Yeah, I'm glad you can relate, Alex. I'm glad that helps, man. Beautiful. So I'm going to go to some questions here. And guys, if you have any questions, feel free to toss them up there and we'll go into deeper questions. I'm going to go to William's question here. William says, what do you do when you're dealing with family members that were abusive and acting narcissistically and you have a traumatic history with them? So that's a great question. There's really two things here. Guys, if you have anyone who's in your family who's narcissistic, the most important thing to recognize is that they may not understand. Like if your family members are narcissistic, they don't have a capacity to be supportive. So that's the first question that I would ask is, does your family, William, have the capacity to be supportive to you in the way that you need to be supported? Can they be emotionally supportive? Can they be supportive of your dreams? Can they be supportive of what it is that you want and encourage you to go after the things that you want to go after? Because if not, well, then you can't, then I would let that go and I would find my needs elsewhere. Like some people actually don't have the capacity to support you in the ways that you need to be supported. And it's up to you as a grown adult to go out there and find people in the world who can support you in that way. All human desire comes down to need. What is it that you need to be the best version of yourself? And so once you ask yourself that question, you can go find people who are willing to support you in the ways that you need to be supported. It's really that simple. Some people don't have the capacity either. If they don't have the capacity to be there for you in the way that you need for them to be there for you, then it's time to let go of the relationship. It's simply just, I'm going to let it go. It's not for me. That person can't be there for me. And sometimes one day, maybe they'll come around and they'll have the capacity or capability to be there for you in a way that you know that they can be there for you, but that's not always the case. So if you have family members who you really care about and they can't support you in the ways that you need to be supported, then it's important to go find people who can support you in those ways. Does that make sense, you guys? Does this all make sense? Beautiful. What other questions do we have here? Guys, if you got any, I'm going to take about two more questions out, and then we'll close up. So the most important thing is just when you're going through the transformative process, ask for your needs to be met. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with asking for what you need. And if you don't know what you need, well, I definitely got some good videos on my YouTube channel on that. So check that out in my Life Mastery playlist. I have a whole bunch of videos on learning all the needs that you have in a relationship. Any other questions that we got here, guys? Euphoric advice says great advice. Yeah, I'm glad that helps, man. When it comes to this, when it comes to any relationship, all relationships are based off of human need, always. Some people are aware of the needs that they have, some people aren't. And if you're one of those people who has a hard time asking for your needs, then that's your stretch practice. Get out there and start asking for your needs. Start asking for those hard things that scare you to be asked for. I remember for me when I started really speaking up for what I needed, not only in relationships, but just in life, that was really scary at first because of my family background, but that doesn't have to be your whole life. Beautiful. That's all I got for this time, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Be looking out for the interview that I'm doing tomorrow. I'm really, really excited about this one. This is going to be a great interview. I got Kevin Crenshaw coming on. So Kevin is a heart coach. So he really helps people soften into their heart. He's got a good following on Instagram. He does really, really powerful work in the world. He really helps you to heal your heart and also heal the heart from hard relationships. I'm really excited to have him. I'm going to bring up the Canva that I made earlier. So that interview is going to go live, and that'll be tomorrow. So be looking out for that. What we're really going to talk about in that, if you guys have any challenges about what you actually really need in a relationship, that's what we're gonna focus on. So I'm going to share my screen here and show you. I'm going to show you so you can see the picture. So this is Kevin. There's me. And he's been doing this work for quite some time now. We're just going to go into what does the heart really need in a relationship. I've noticed even in my own life, because I didn't grow up in a place where my needs were met, or they weren't front and center. And a lot of individuals in the world right now have grown up in families where they didn't know exactly what it is that they needed, or what it is that their heart wanted in order to feel happy, in order to be excited about life, in order to be joyous and zealous. That's our natural state, and that's our birthright. It is your natural birthright to be excited and be having a good time here on earth. Like, that's why we're here. At least that's how I see it. Once you do all the healing work. So that interview it's really just going to be a conversation around the heart. What do you actually need from the heart? What's most important for the heart in order to feel happy, in order to feel joyful? And the more we get in touch with the needs of the heart, the more we actually enjoy life. So be looking out for that. That is going tomorrow. I believe that is going at, let me bring up my calendar here and I will share this with you guys. So that is going tomorrow at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So be looking out for that. I'm really excited for that. It'll be on the YouTube channel and also my Facebook. And if you haven't yet signed up for the Sacred Relationship Series, we got about a week left. So only one more week and you'll get access to all the live coaching sessions we did, all the interviews, all that good stuff. So you can check all that out in case you're just joining late. If you guys have any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to reach out. If you have any things about relationships or starting up your business, you know where to find me. I'd be more than happy to help in any way that I can. And that's all I got for today. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. I wish everyone an awesome day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.